There is no evidence of a resurrection. The Bible makes a claim of a resurrection.
This is just repackaged Matt Dillahunty.
It's not the evidence for the resurrection. This is what happened in your discussion with Mike.
There is no evidence for the resurrection. There are claims.
First of all, claims can be evidence because testimony is a kind of evidence. And oftentimes in history, it's the only kind of evidence that we have. What we need to be asking is, what are the Gospels? What are their authors like? And what is their relationship to truth? If the Gospel authors are careful, honest, and close up to the facts, then what they report goes back to what the original disciples claimed. And the claims of the Gospels are that for over a period of 40 days, the disciples conversed with Jesus, talked with Jesus, touched his wounds, met with him in groups. This is something that's extremely difficult for them to be mistaken about. Now, it's not a miracle in and of itself for them to make such a claim, but if they are making such an unusual claim in public to a hostile audience, then it makes it extremely improbable that they were lying.
Eliminate the impossible. Whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
But the Bible also says in Matthew 25, during the crucifixion, the dead exited their graves and wandered around Jerusalem. Had that happened, I suspect somebody would have written down, hey, zombies are a thing now.
You atheists really love your zombie story, don't you?
So what? This is a zombie apocalypse or something?
So what the Atheist Nextdoor probably wants to say is that the original witnesses were mistaken, and what the disciples experienced was a whole lot briefer and vaguer than what the Gospels say. And we know this because the physical details in the Gospels supposedly came later and are probably embellished because of the crazy stories that we see in them, like this zombie apocalypse in Matthew that no one else in history mentions.
This one was invented by a writer. Not this time. It never happened.
So what is actually happening here is there are two arguments. There's the argument from silence, and there's the argument from weirdness. First off, if we apply this historical standard that if something is historical, it has to be duplicated in other accounts, then we would have virtually no history whatsoever. Second of all, there was no Jerusalem Times back then. Neither was there Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter. So to expect that everybody would be absolutely talking about this is just plain wrong. There's also the fact that our intuitions suck when it comes to predicting what a writer would actually report. Let's take a look at a few notable examples. The Greek historians Herodotus and Thucydides never mention Rome. That seems like kind of a big oversight. Thucydides also never mentioned Socrates, even though he may have been considered one of the most important characters in Athens during the 20 years covered in his work. In two long letters to Tacitus, Pliny the Younger describes the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in great detail. However, he doesn't mention the destruction of Pompeii, where an estimate of 60,000 people died. In 41 AD, the Emperor Claudius expelled the Jews from Rome. Both the Jewish writers Josephus and Philo fail to mention it, despite both of them preserving tons of Jewish history. The Book of Acts and Suetonius are the only sources that describe it. In his detailed biography of the Emperor Constantine, Eusebius glaringly fails to mention the death of Constantine's son Crispus and his wife Fausta. Civil War General U.S. Grant says absolutely nothing about the Emancipation Proclamation, despite keeping an extensive diary. It's clear from these numerous surprising examples that we need to pump our brakes and calibrate our expectations. Furthermore, Matthew doesn't say that thousands of dead saints went storming around Jerusalem. Could have been a small handful of recently deceased saints who were seen by friends or relatives who were going to be part of the Christian movement. For them, experiencing this could have raised the prior probability that Jesus rose from the dead when they heard about it. Okay, so what about the supposed oddness of it? Well, first of all, the word zombie is being thrown around as just some sort of anti-supernatural bullying tactic. You don't really expect us to believe this story about zombies popping out of the grave, do you? How embarrassing for you, Christians. But bro, we already believe that God rose Jesus from the dead. So if God's able to do that, what's another handful of saints?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Also, Jesus allegedly rose other people from the dead. I mean, you have the story of the widow of Nain's son and the story of Lazarus, which are recorded in only one source, by the way. Do you want to go ahead and call those people zombies too? The only thing that you can really say against this account is that it's brief. Maybe Matthew heard it secondhand and didn't have a whole lot of details. Okay, fine, but that doesn't necessarily make it false. Our reasons for believing this account are routed through other reasons for trusting Matthew's gospel, which I discuss in other videos, and there's also, of course, the aptness of such a miracle given what else we know about Jesus. You know, him being the Son of God and all, appearing at a special time to give the world its most important message. That's super weird to me, isn't a reasonable criterion for historicity.